On today's marvelous episode of Podcast Demastered, we marvel at the MCU's Infinity Saga. We're also going to preview Black Widow and recap the newest episode of Loki. So stick around. Welcome to episode 5 of Podcast Demastered. I'm your host, Ethan Meyer, and as always, I'm joined by Chelsea and Wade. And today is a very jam-packed day of Marvel goodness. We're going to be talking the Infinity Saga, the MCU version of the Infinity Saga, not the comic books.
Which one?
Yeah, right. And then later on in the episode, we'll be previewing Black Widow, which comes out July 9th. And then we're also going to discuss the latest episode of Loki, episode 4. So with that being said, I say we just kind of jump right in here to the MCU talk with the Infinity Saga. And I guess just right off the top, guys, what are your initial impressions and initial thoughts of the whole the saga itself and the 3 phases and what Marvel was able to accomplish?
Where to start, really?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. A lot to unpack.
Just the fact that they got so many movies in a cohesive group, it's just astounding, the fact that everything fits right there together and it tells one whole story. It's just bizarre,
Yeah. I feel like this thing is the perfect representation of what it's like to have a plan and a through line as opposed to just faking it as you go along, because the MCU would not be as successful as it is if they did not have this roadmap, And I'm sure it was altered and things changed and new ideas and stuff like that, but they had to have had a pretty general roadmap. And just to prove that that's the best way to handle it, just look at DC and Star Wars and these other major franchises that didn't have a plan, and they're always in shambles or trying to make up for mistakes, and the MCU is kind of the gold standard of what you can accomplish when everyone's on the same page,
Well, Marvel had the beginning of it was so crazy because I don't think there was too much of a plan when they started. I think it was at minimum, I'm sure it was more hey, we're just kind of slowly get towards a full Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And then after the first Avengers, I think that's when it really exploded. They were we definitely have some traction here. We have all the stuff that we can work with. We might as well just go for it.
Yeah, because
with such a cast that they had too, such a charming cast. Why not?
Yeah, and even you look back at Phase 1, a lot of those, they're all mostly origin films. You had Thor, you had Iron Man 2, then you had the Hulk, and then you had Captain America, and then the Avengers. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the Avengers that the MCU had didn't reach its state of prominence, even within mainstream, because it was just oh, it's a superhero movie, let's go watch a superhero movie. This is after all the Spider-Mans, and X-Men was kind of in a weird place, and you had DC doing some Batman stuff. It wasn't out of the ordinary to have a superhero movie. So you had, when an Iron Man comes out or a Thor comes out, and you had these little inklings at the end, end of the credits, and that kind of were laying the groundwork. But I remember watching those films when they came out, and the first Iron Man had Nick Fury at the end. He's I want to do the Avengers Initiative, and you're whoa, that's fucking cool.
That was such a huge moment.
Yeah, it's and I don't really know what you guys mean by this, or are you doing an Avengers film? You know, like,
Is this really happening after all
they
this
used the
time?
A word. They used the A word, man.
yeah, exactly. And it wasn't until I feel like it wasn't until I actually like watched Avengers, I'm just like, whoa, this is a really cool culmination of all this stuff. It's like all these things were already like planned to like this was the final movie. Like I've always looked at the MCU as more of like a kind of like how TV is handled, where each phase is kind of like a season, and it ends with like an Avengers film is kind of like the last episode of the season, like the season finale. You know,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
like it's more set up that way, as opposed to just like, you know, these one-off films, because like each film is very important for the next, or you know, like it's the way they handled it is almost like hasn't really been done on that scale in film. You know,
Yeah.
and it's still, you know, we'll talk about it later, but Black Widow kicks off phase 4 in terms of the films. So it's just like it's still going. It started in 2008 and it's 2021, and they still have like 2 phases potentially planned out. Like it's pretty crazy.
And now we have, you know, TV shows and stuff added into that.
Right.
Outside of movies, so it's just building, really.
Yeah.
It's truly a cinematic universe.
Right, and you know they have plenty of like source material to pull from. You know, it's not like they're gonna run dry. There's still entire like, you know, they just acquired Fox and all that stuff, so you get all, you know, you get the Fox characters, which will some, you know, way down the road get introduced, and then there's these little inklings that like the Sony Spider-Man universe is gonna somehow bleed over. You know, if that happens, cool. If not, it's fine. But you know, so they still have like, you know, it's crazy to think that like the Infinity Saga could just be like a foundation, and it can only just get bigger and crazier. You know,
Absolutely.
So, like that's pretty. I don't know. It's almost like I'm almost like skeptical of it because the Infinity Saga wrapped up so well that I'm just like, they can't pull that shit off again. Like, right? Like, there's no way. Like, they caught lightning in a bottle with the way that like all culminated. There's no way they can pull it off again. And I feel like they kind of feel like that too, a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know, like now that the saga has concluded, I feel like they're trying to be careful not to like give that impression that that's something that they're trying to do again. Now that it's like we've kind of ended this stage, and now we're kind of in like this open space, this nice open field where we can just kind of let all the characters out to play and explore them without particularly going in like a straightforward direction.
Right.
While they make plans and they fit the Fox properties in and stuff like that, which I love. I love hopefully getting to see all these characters shine and grow more as actual people and stuff before they're thrown into like more cosmic nonsense.
Right. It is nice having these, you know, especially with the TV shows that are more character studies of the characters that, you know, were in the Infinity Saga and they had prominent roles, but they were never like the stars. They were never the highlights. They were always sidekicks or, you know, kind of just had throwaway lines, stuff like that. You know, being able to give Wanda and Vision their own thing, and then Bucky and Falcon their own thing, and now Loki was always kind of a hit, but he's a fan favorite, so of course he's gonna get stuff.
Right.
But like, you know, phase 4 in terms of like the TV shows is definitely just kind of like, hey, let's shine light on some of these, like they're not new, but they never really were fully fleshed out, you know. And that's I like that. And we don't really know what phase 4 the movies are going to be doing because they have been delayed for 2 years. So
right.
We have no
Big
idea.
surprise.
Yeah, so we have, you know, no idea. Black Widow seemingly is not going to be too I'm gonna go ahead and guess that it's not too forward thinking, just because it takes place technically during the Infinity Wars or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be too revealing on the future, because she's not in the future. Spoilers.
Spoilers, no kidding.
Yeah, spoilers. Black Widow's
no.
dead, so
Oh, yeah.
she's definitely not going to be phase 4 or 5 material. So, but I guess talking just like singular films, do you guys have any like standout films that you think are like your personal favorites, or do you have like one that may be like underrated that you think people don't give enough credit, or you know, what are some of your guys' like go-tos?
I think the first Captain America film will always have a special place in my heart. I just think, Steve Rogers is really cool. I love, his origin story and just like having a little bit of that period piece and exploring World War II. And I remember seeing that, I don't know if it was on the IMAX, but I definitely saw it with my whole family. They were all excited to see this movie.
I was incredibly excited for the first Captain America, and in fact, it's still my favorite film for Phase 1. Like, I think, even to this day, I think that movie holds up better than the other Phase 1 films.
Better than Thor.
Yeah, Thor...
Thor's had a rough life.
It's...
The first
terrible,
Yeah, the first Thor is too Shakespearean.
Yeah.
To me, in terms of like even just like the costumes, how it's filmed, the delivery of the lines is almost kind of like a play. Like it's almost like they're overacting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Thor didn't hit his stride until Phase 3.
Of course.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Like,
I would agree with that.
I'll go ahead and say that there are parts of Thor: The Dark World that I think are incredible. But I think there's so much of that film is such just a mess that it completely, like, it ruins it. Like, I feel like if that film had literally nothing to do with Earth, it would have been 1,000 times better.
Maybe. Like, there's so many great moments in that, like, some really nice scenes.
Yeah.
But as a whole, like, watching the whole movie, it's like, oh my gosh. Pause and come back tomorrow.
Yeah, it was it was bad enough where
dark
I
elves.
remember Chris Hemsworth was like, this made me want to quit. Like,
Yeah. Well, like, wasn't that, like, the entire Thor group, basically? They were just like, by the end of Dark World, they were all just like,
well, I remember
God.
I remember that was in the middle, like, that was, that's mid Phase 2 stuff, and that's when contract negotiations were going on for a lot of the, like, original talent. And I remember that there were all these stories coming out. They're like, oh, well, Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be Iron Man anymore because they're not going to give him $1 billion or whatever. You remember all that? You remember all those contract disputes? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and Hemsworth was one of them because he was like, I don't like this character. He's fucking dull and boring and overly serious, and it's not fun. And then the savior, Taika Waititi, comes in and makes like one of the best MCU films, in my opinion, with Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, of course.
And just
That's
completely revitalized that character and Hemsworth portrayal of him, and actually just like, now Hemsworth's like, yeah, I want to play Thor the rest of my life.
Right?
It's just like...
and Taika even brought back Natalie Portman, which
Yeah.
I thought she was like long gone.
Yeah, same. And she has an awesome role. She's not just, the Earth squeeze, because like she always was basically just the the eye candy or whatever. She never really like, oh, she's a scientist, she's super smart, but it's just like, yeah, I mean, both
Never really get
movies.
to shine.
Yeah, not in the way that I expect Natalie Portman, who's an amazing actress, to actually have a more deserving role. Like the first Thor, she's literally just kind of like, oh my god, look at his muscles. Oh my god, he shoots lightning. This is amazing. And then the second film, she's just like
Straight up damsel.
Yeah, she's literally the damsel.
Which she hated. That's why she left, because she's just like,
Yeah.
like, if we're not going to treat this character with some respect, then
Right.
I'm going to go.
Yeah. Which, you know, further proves my point that Thor the Dark World, if it was strictly just an Asgardian film, had nothing to do with Earth, just like a, you know, Dark Elves and Asgardians, and doesn't have Darcy making stupid jokes and Natalie Portman being the damsel.
Oh, Darcy.
Like, everything about those characters from Earth. And who's the like the male scientist or whatever who's like, he's like crazy or whatever. There's like a scene I remember he's like explaining the ether, but he's like naked or something. Like, everything about all the Earth characters in that film is horrendous. It's like so cheesy and awful. But like,
It was just after effects of Loki controlling his mind for so long.
Sure. Sure.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. But I remember the director for that film was Alan Taylor, and he was one of the main directors for Game of Thrones. And I could tell that he brought a lot of that with him, because there's scenes in the Dark World that have that kind of Game of Thrones flavor, that vibe, because that film's very much more like a little bit like when it is in Asgard and it's Thor and Loki, or Thor and Heimdall. Like, those scenes are like brooding and kind of dark, and they're not super, like, there's no charm or joy to them, but it's very much more just like a serious tone. And there's parts of me that's like, wow, I really like this, but it doesn't fit for Marvel, you know? Like, it doesn't seem like an MCU film. It's like, it seems odd. Like, I mean, if you watch them now, like, that film stands out like a sore thumb because it doesn't have the right tone. That
It's such a downer.
Yeah, exactly. It's a downer. And Darcy does her best to try and lift your spirits, but she's just so damn awful.
She's too bright of a spot in that darkness.
In
It's
that
like,
dark
God,
world.
In that dark world. No,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's just, I feel like if that was not a Thor film, if it was just, I don't know, just some random fantasy film, I feel like it'd be better.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like, that's like, I don't know, that's probably my like black sheep that I actually, like, not technically a guilty pleasure because I don't really enjoy watching it.
But you can appreciate it.
But I can appreciate it, and there's aspects to it. I mean, there's some scenes in there that are like beautifully shot that I'm just like, wow, this is really good. And then the next scene will be something else, and I'm like, oh wow, this is really not good. This is rough. Do you guys have any like films like that aren't like the cream of the crop, but you like them for whatever reason?
I've been trying to think, but I'm such an I like everything person that I don't think of any except for Dark World. I don't really see anything as like wow, that could have been yikes. I don't know, man.
Well,
Chelsea, help me out here.
What's your what's your like go-to MCU film that you can just like rewatch, like your, you know, like the one that you watch the most? It's like your
honestly,
your popcorn film.
Probably Infinity War.
Oh Jesus.
I love Infinity War so much.
I mean, it is good, but
Yeah.
Infinity War and Endgame are not films that I want to just like rewatch all the time because they're heavy, you know.
Well, you just stop it. You stop it before the end. Like, Thor throws his axe into Thanos. Stop the movie. He's dead. Bye. Like, that's it.
Yeah, but
that's the end
even like, I remember watching Infinity War, and like the opening scene is you just see like Thanos basically obliterating all the Asgardians, and it's just like Thor like beaten down.
Brutal.
And then he just kicks the shit out of Hulk like he was nothing. And then he he kills Loki and Heimdall, and I'm just like, this is 5 minutes into the film. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember sitting in a theater during that,
yeah,
and like checking my watch and being like, "Oh my god, we have a long way to go."
Yeah, I was like, this like that was one of the best tone setters for like any of the movies. You're just like, oh wow, I know exactly how this is gonna play out.
Well, I mean, especially like coming from like the end of Ragnarok, when they're like look out their ship window and it's like, oh, and there's Thanos' ship.
Yeah.
And Loki's like, oh boy.
Yeah, like I think it's also because the MCU doesn't have like, I wouldn't say it has the best stable of villains throughout in its entirety. There's a lot of like standouts, obviously Loki and Thanos. But like, you know, with that being said, like when you get to Infinity War and you finally get to see Thanos like be a character as opposed to just like a face or a voice.
Yeah, he's like being an active force and what's going on.
Yeah, you actually get to finally see him in action. You're just like, whoa, this dude's legit. You know? Like I feel like a lot of the villains are just kind of like, they're just, you know, they're just villain. Yeah, basic. They're skin deep, you know?
Yeah.
And Thanos has like, there's like a certain point in Infinity War where you almost kind of see his side of things. Like I remember watching that film and I'm just like, you know, he's not wrong. You know? Like, the way you're going about it may be wrong, but I you know, you got the right, you know, you're
see his point.
Yeah, I see your
that's
point.
all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's like, I understand the problems that you see in the universe. I respect that. You know, that makes sense. Like he's not a villain for villain's sake. You know, he's not just like, oh, I'm a big bad guy and I want to take over the world for money or power or, you know, stereotypical villain nonsense. Like he actually sees himself as like doing the universe a favor, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they came up with this new reason for being for Thanos instead of the comic book version. Not saying that wouldn't have been great to see like on a screen as well, because wow. But as a movie, as like creating a story and really getting your audiences engaged in the villain that is Thanos,
yeah.
Like I feel like that was a good idea. Not, oh, I'm crazy and I'm in love with actual death. So
yeah,
I feel like universe, it's fine.
I feel like if Thanos was more comic accurate, it would have been less engaging, at least for me. Because for me, villains make the heroes, and if the villain is kind of just like subpar or very one-dimensional in his ideals, I don't really feel like when the hero wins that it was like a huge triumph. You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's part of the reason why I love Batman so much, because Joker to me is such an amazing villain. We're not going to get too far into DC shit. This is a Marvel show, guys. but like,
we'll talk about DC another time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But like, making Thanos such an engaging and almost like, I don't want to say sympathetic, but to get your audience to at least tiptoe on that line a little bit with the villain is a huge accomplishment. You know?
And even by the end of like Infinity War, when you kind of see the point, like Thanos' point, but you also see how terrifyingly close he continuously gets to that goal. And then especially once he's like running over all of the heroes and the characters that we have gotten to know, like at a terrifying rate, you jump right back over that line.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh God, they got to stop him.
Yeah.
Like just the emotions that you go through, like with Thanos alone, is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that when he acquires the Soul Stone and he has to kill Gamora to get it, and then you have that scene with him in the pool and like all that stuff, and he realizes that he made an ultimate sacrifice to achieve his goal or his duty. Like that scene right there is very powerful for his character development. in my, if you didn't have any of that, then he does fall back in line with that kind of one note villain where I'm just like, I'm bad and powerful, so I'm going to do mean and powerful things, And also, when he actually does accomplish his goal, dude just retires.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, he just goes to his garden and lives in his shack, destroys the Infinity Stones. He's like, all right, I saved the universe. I'm gonna fucking grow some space veggies and just hang out. Like, usually villains that we're used to seeing don't have an actual, like, end. They just, like, there is no, like, oh, well, I finally reached my world domination, so I guess I'll just stop here. Like, they never stop being the villain, and he stopped being the villain. Like, even when in game and they came to get him, he's just like, fuck it, guys, I'm done with this. Kill me if you want, whatever. I'm over it. I saved the goddamn universe. Like, what do you guys want from me? Like, that's part of the reason why I think how the MCU ended the Infinity Saga was such a strong character in Thanos. I feel like that could have gone, like, infinitely other direction and just been like not as a big of a accomplishment if the villain didn't pay off. Oh, yeah. We've seen Thanos since Phase 1. Even if it's just like him, like, turning and looking at the camera or whatever, like, the build-up was unprecedented. You had to wait like 10 years to actually see this dude in action. So the fact that they were able to pull it off is awesome,
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, most of the other villains in the MCU are not. I can't even remember half their names. Like, I think back and I'm like, who? What was this dude's name? So it wasn't like that.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna get, like, back onto. I was gonna slightly change by mentioning another movie that I thought was, but underrated a little bit.
Do it. What's your underrated?
Well, I don't know. I think personally, Ant-Man is kind of underrated in some sense. I really enjoy that movie. It's just a really fun heist movie. It's Paul Rudd. He's just great in that role. And it was a little bit of a fun, like, change of pace that we had, like, seen in some of the MCU movies. And I don't know, I was happy with it. I thought it was fun.
Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Did you watch it?
Yeah. I'll tell you why I feel like it's underrated. Because there's people like me that wrote it off when Edgar Wright was no longer directing. I remember the turmoil in that film where Edgar Wright, he, like, wrote the script, was going to direct it, and I was so excited. I was like, I love Edgar Wright. He's an amazing director. And then they're like, oh, creative differences, I'm stepping away. And then some nobody came in. I'm just like, whatever, this film's going to suck. And I was like, and Paul Rudd, I don't, he's whatever. I don't, it's Paul Rudd. So I immediately wrote the film off because I was just not interested in the fact that Edgar Wright wasn't doing it. I was never really excited about any of the casting. Ant-Man's also not a character that I know much about or that gets me excited. So I feel like those are a lot of the reasons that kind of stack up that I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. I mean, if I get the chance to watch it, I will, but it doesn't seem like this. It was like I gotta be first in line to see Ant-Man, Yeah. But after seeing it, yes, it is charming and pleasant and fun.
Did you see Ant-Man and the Wasp yet?
Ant-Man and the Wasp is the only MCU film I haven't seen. So.
Oh, it's so good. It's like 2 hours of sassy. Sassy Lily.
I did watch, like, I had to watch the after credits thing or whatever because it sets up in game or whatever. I just, like, watched that on YouTube, but I still have, to this day, have not watched the film. So I guess I probably should before Quantumania comes out.
Yeah, you probably should. Gotta learn about the quantum realm, man.
I know. I have a very tenuous knowledge of the quantum realm, enough to at least understand the story arc for Endgame. So.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I think they tell you in Endgame everything you really need to know.
Yeah.
So it's not like so crucial of a thing.
Yeah, because even they knew, like, yeah, probably most people haven't seen this film, so we should probably reiterate what this is.
You think they make any movie with the assumption, oh, they probably didn't see the one that came before it? Okay, Ethan.
I will say, speaking of that, I remember the transition from, like, it was like midway through phase 2. Like, phase 2 had so much, like, weirdness happen because it was contract disputes with actors. And then that's when Joss Whedon, like, kind of stepped away as, like, the overseer in terms of, like the main producer. He was directing the Avengers films. Like, he was kind of, like, you know, the head dude.
The guy,
and then when they brought in the Russo brothers and they did Captain America Winter Soldier, that movie was incredible. And then when the Russo brothers started doing the bigger tentpole films like Civil War, and then they did Infinity War and Endgame, like, that was the perfect change that needed to happen, because I feel like the Russo brothers brought a spark, because phase 2 was kind of all over the map in terms of like quality and just like turmoil within like studios and directors leaving and actors being pissy and all this other stuff. And I remember all the stuff coming out when Age of Ultron was filming, and Joss Whedon was talking about how he just couldn't handle it anymore. He was tired. It was too much. All this other stuff. He needed to step away, and thankfully he did. Because we won't get into it. But
no, I'm so appreciative that they came in and took over, like, the starting with the Captain America stuff, and then kept that story moving along. There's no way we would have gotten anywhere close to where we ended. No way.
Yeah, I know. Like, they just, man, they were, the fact that they're no longer part of the like the MCU family, like, kind of, that's another reason why it makes me skeptical going forward, because they were just perfect, like, production glue that you knew if, like, they were behind the project, like, there was going to be some, like, quality control.
Oh, I bet they'll be back eventually.
I remember when they after Endgame, and they're like, yeah, we're done, but if you guys do what'd they say, Secret Wars or whatever, or they're like, oh, something big like that would bring us back. I'm just like,
oh, well, they are doing Secret Wars. Well,
but they're doing it as a TV show.
Secret Invasion.
Yeah, they're doing Secret Invasion as a TV show. I don't think that's going to get the Russo. I don't think that has the cachet to get the Russo brothers back. You know.
Oh, maybe not. We'll see though. There's some pretty cool, like, characters coming. I'm pretty sure for that. So that'll be pretty cool.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I guess I can't say I'm sure, but I'm hoping that they will come back down the road when there actually is that final, like, big team up film, whatever that may be. You know, maybe they'll come back when the X-Men are more prominent and they can do a huge, crazy film with whatever that's all gonna be. But I think it's also good for them to kind of, yeah, right. I think it's good for them to also step away.
Oh yeah,
you know, and just kind of, get some space and come up with some fresh ideas. It's kind of funny, like, most of the films they've been doing since are like flops. Like, they're a good director duo, but if they just don't, without the strong, like, Marvel cast and characters, I feel like they don't do as well, you know. But
well, man, I think it's possible that you have like, you got some of your work, like, done for you already with that group, you know.
Oh yeah. And, you know, with the overall, you know, kind of, like we mentioned, like, the roadmap ahead of them, you know, all you gotta do is kind of just fall in line and just make it great. You don't have to, like, start something from scratch, you know.
I'm gonna give another shout out to another movie.
Do it.
I wouldn't say it's underrated now. I think when, like, right before it came out, it was considered underrated. Guardians of the Galaxy.
People were like, "There's no way that's gonna be a big hit." Look at that.
And they're
mess.
like, "What is this movie? It looks stupid." And I don't.
I-
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought going into
Yeah,
it
I was
too.
one of them. I was one of those people when they saw that trailer. I was like, "Who the fuck are these people?" I was like, "What the hell's
Yeah,
the
like,
Guardians
what
of the Galaxy? There's a tree. There's a raccoon. It's like they just look like literally." And the trailer kind of even picked fun at that too, because like I remember that
Yeah.
line in the trailer, like they just look like a bunch of a-holes. And it's like, yeah, I don't know who any of these people are. It's like, and I don't know why I should care.
And here we are.
And then you watch it and you're like, wow, that was really good, really funny.
The music, just the comedy,
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, the soundtrack was perfect for both of those films. And honestly, like, I think they nailed it with it's kind of a huge risk having Dave Bautista, you know, who was like an ex, he was MMA or a wrestler, or
He was a wrestler.
He came from the fighting
Yeah.
world,
Yeah.
you know, and he was in there, but like Drax is almost like his character kind of steals more scenes than he has any right to.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like he kind of became like a huge like fan favorite because he was just like his lines were hilarious, like the delivery, and his character is just so like so funny. Even though he like contextually isn't supposed to be. It's just so good. But yeah, I do remember when that film was like announced and being marketed. I'm just like, oh Jesus, what is happening here?
And then the second one came out, and everybody was freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different, like setting there.
This like the second one, like the filming in the second one, there is some amazing shots in that film. You know, some just like truly stand up. Like they kind of use like every color in the spectrum in that movie. Like that was one of the first Marvel films that I saw that I was like, wow, this is like an actual like spectacle. Because most of the Marvel films, they have kind of like a muted palette a little bit, and a lot of them before then were also fairly grounded. Like even the first Guardians of the Galaxy was still kind of not dull, but not as kind of like bombastic as Guardians 2.
Oh yeah.
And then you really like take it up a notch with Thor Ragnarok, which still is like one of the most beautifully shot like superhero films ever.
I'm so
Like,
interested in seeing what they're gonna do with Guardians 3.
Yeah, right.
Like
And
visually
even-
and stuff. Oh.
And Thor Love and Thunder. Like dude, that film's gonna be legit. Like I cannot wait. There's scenes in Thor Ragnarok that they look like oil paintings. You know? Like they have like that wide shot with it's like a flashback, and it shows the Valkyries attacking Hela.
Oh yeah. That's
I'm
so
just like,
cool.
yeah.
I was like, dude, this is an amazing shot. And then when Thor first like lands on the Rainbow Bridge with his like when he finally figures out how to use like his lightning powers or whatever, and it's kind of like that same kind of angle, and he just lands on the bridge,
yeah.
just obliterates everyone. Like there's some
It's a whole great scene.
yeah, there's some standout moments in that film that just are and it's another like huge just color explosion in that film. Like something that the MCU definitely needed was more like color. like
Right.
like more vibrance. Like there's like all these characters have their own like color schemes, but they were always kind of like toned down a little bit.
Yeah. Like
And then
like not saturated or
Yeah. And it wasn't until Phase 3 they're like, let's crank this shit up to 11, just blow these colors off the screen, you know, and you can, and it's awesome.
about
Like,
time.
Yeah, exactly. What about some of we kind of talked about some of our favorite films and stuff like that. What about some of the biggest surprises?
Spider-Man.
You guys are... Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Like when he showed up in Civil War?
Yeah. Yeah, like I was like in tears. Spider-Man is my favorite hero. And I thought he was like lost. so the fact that not only that Marvel got to use Spider-Man for the movie, but like he was in Civil War there, like with all these other big heroes and stuff. I was just, that finished me off. I was like, this movie's over. I'm done. Like, I have everything that I needed. And then they're like, oh, he's gonna get movies too. And then I was just on the ground dead. So here I am, waiting for No Way Home.
Yeah. I remember when that trailer came out for Civil War, and at the end of it, it showed Spider-Man taking Cap's shield, and he says like some quippy line or whatever. I can't remember what it is, but I remember like that was like and that's just a trailer, and people were like, "What? Like they finally like they got Spider-Man in this. This is gonna be amazing." Because that was like a huge. If you take X-Men out of the equation, like Spider-Man's the next like big hero that was always kind of missing from the collective,
But like we'll know that the X-Men and or the Fantastic Four are coming.
Right.
We just have to wait, but we didn't really know about Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
That really was a shock. Not that I'm not waiting for X-Men or Fantastic Four. But I think Spider-Man is my number one surprise there, I think.
I think I was surprised that they actually made a Doctor Strange movie.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. And then it was actually good.
Yeah.
Talk about the stuff that goes on in that movie. Oh my gosh.
Doctor Strange is that's the definition of a trippy film. But I feel like that was the best way to handle that character, and like is making it as trippy and not nonsensical in terms of like it didn't make sense, but just like nonsensical in terms of like physics. And just like
you needed those graphics.
Yeah, because like most of the other characters are very grounded in reality or reality-based powers, and you get Doctor Strange, who's
literally not.
Yeah, who literally can almost bend reality to his will. It's just, I'm glad that they like went for it. Like that was. Just that film being good was a surprise to me, because I had very low expectations for that, like extremely low.
Yeah. I didn't really have any, because he's just that kind of character that you just don't know about. Like even in the comics, like he's kind of give or take. It just kind of depends on who's writing for him at the time. But then the movie comes out, and I remember going to see it. I had to sit in like the very front row, I'm pretty sure. So I was like right up there in front of all of these like crazy effects and stuff. Like my brain was so fried by the end of that movie.
Yeah, I didn't even get to see that one in theaters. That's how low my expectations were. I just waited for it to come out. I know. I kind of wish I would have. But yeah, I didn't see that one in theaters. That would have.
You can go watch number 2. It's okay.
Yeah, that one actually does have very high expectations. So I don't.
Yes.
I think for me, my biggest surprise is also kind of like a cop out. It's kind of like an easy answer, but I was honestly not expecting, or I don't think anyone was, at the end of Iron Man when you get Nick Fury saying that they're going to do the Avengers Initiative.
Oh yeah, there's no way anybody was expecting
like that's literally
that.
Like the ultimate pinnacle of surprises, because that's the first one. There are no expectations that there's stuff at the end of the credits or whatever, and then when you see that, it just kind of like, everyone's leaving the theater, everyone's walking out, throwing their stuff away, and then Samuel Jackson pops up and he's like, Mr. Stark, or whatever, and it's just like, well, what is this? What is this now? Like that's.
Do you remember at the end of the Hulk, the second Hulk movie, like the one that's actually canonical? Do you remember Tony Stark being at the end of that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Where he goes up to like Thunderbolt, the General. Yeah. Thunderbolt Ross or whatever, and they start talking about the super soldier serum or whatever. Yeah, like it set a precedent that's still alive to this day that you have to wait for the credits.
You have to. You have to.
And then like Avengers kind of set that standard where it's like, all right, the mid credits is the actual like good one, and the post credits is just kind of like a throwaway gag. Usually, you know. Mm-hmm. Because I remember I waited all the way to the end of the Avengers just to watch them sit there and eat falafel or whatever, and I'm just like, I waited for like 20 minutes for this. Like, good God.
Yep.
Like,
But
it's a funny
everybody
scene,
laughed.
but it's just like, oh my, what yeah. What is this? But yeah, that's another thing that's just like, that's something that's totally unique to the MCU is like having those. Like, I remember the X-Men films did it a little bit. Wasn't it X-Men Last Stand at the end of the credits? Because,
Yes.
like, Xavier dies, but at the end of the credits it shows Moira, like, I don't know.
He's back or something.
Yeah, somehow, like, references that he's alive or his soul's alive or some shit. I don't know. Like, they tried. They tried their best. You
Yeah,
know?
the X-Men
Yeah.
movies are weird because they like show off things that like are like not canon but are canon. It's so weird.
Yeah, the
Especially
X-Men...
with like the next trilogy, like after that.
Yeah, we
Oh
can get
my
into
God.
the X-Men movies in a later episode, but they are
Yes.
they are proof that if you don't have a concrete plan, your films will suffer.
Brian, goddamn singer, get
Because
out.
Oh gosh.
they took so
we will
many
talk about that for sure.
Yeah, they took so many respectable storylines and shat all over them. So but yeah, back to the good Marvel stuff. Back to the MCU.
Oh, one thing though I'm going to miss is all of Stanley's cameos.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
I'm glad
I
they
always
could
looked
make
forward
it
to
the end,
them.
though.
they can do that
Yeah.
digital rendering that they did for Leia and Moff Tarkin in the Star Wars movies.
Oh, oh no, it won't be
digitally
the same.
digitally render Stan Lee in every film. But yeah, I mean his cameos, like, you know, they're throwaways, but they're so, I don't know. They're just they're funny, they're charming, they're like
Yeah, they
something to.
charm.
It's like it's kind of like you're watching a film, but it's also like a Where's Waldo. You know, you're just kind of like you're waiting for it.
Yes.
You're like, all right,
Oh, yeah.
where is he? Where's he gonna be? What's he doing this time?
100%.
I
So
wonder
that
if
was
they
always-
find new ways to subtly reference people. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they'll start throwing like one sheets for like Jack Kirby's drawings. They'll just like throw them up like somewhere.
That'd be
Oh
cool.
man.
That might be a little too subtle.
Throw it right in the face.
A bit.
Yeah. Well, I know we kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but about how some of the villains weren't always top notch. But besides Thanos and Loki, do you guys have any other villains that you thought were really good?
The Vulture.
Yes. That was 100% the one I was
Yes.
going to say.
Mostly because they threw you for a loop, and you find out he's the parent of one of Peter's friends,
Yep.
which is not comic canon at all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It makes for a better film.
Oh yeah, add in
'Cause-
that drama,
Add in that tension. That scene in the car
right?
right before the dance or whatever. Dude, that is like one of the best scenes in the MCU.
The theater was silent. They were like, "We
Yeah,
don't know what's gonna happen."
You're so like
God.
nervous and anxious. It's insane. And he's also another one of those villains where you can kind of see his side of things too. You know?
Oh yeah, he's just
Yeah.
trying to look out for the little man, basically,
Yeah, exactly.
more or less.
And then I also love at the end of the film, you know, where Scorpion or whatever is like, "Oh, do you know who he is?" And he's like, "Nah, if I knew who he was, you think he'd be alive?" Like, I don't know, man. There's just like, there, you know,
Yeah, that was great.
I
That was
love
great
that
right
stuff. I love that stuff.
Good character.
Like Vulture is definitely one of the tippity top villains in the Infinity Saga for sure.
He's definitely different than comics Vulture, and that's okay.
Yeah,
That
I think that's
is
probably for the
okay.
best, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comics Vulture is a little. There's a reason why they didn't do it in Spider-Man 3. You know.
Yeah.
Where it's like, nah, you can't do this. Sam Raimi, don't do this. Here's a whole list of other villains you can use instead.
Peter's just beating up on the elderly again. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. He makes fun of it himself, so it's all good.
I would say one of my. He's not like, he's not a villain that has a whole lot of depth like your Vulture or your Thanos or your Lokis, but I think it's such a good characterization of the villain and a good good casting choice, and that's Red Skull.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, I love that actor, and having him play Red Skull is awesome. Like, I just... And he's very much a one-note villain. Like, he's very much just like a villain for villain's sake. But I don't know, it's just so good.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
Well, the fact that we got to see him one last time too is really cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It sucks it wasn't the same voice actor or actor in general, but...
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
It was a little
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, but you know, it's whatever. But yeah, I always
It's
really
something.
I always really liked Red Skull. Also really liked Hela in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my god. If they don't bring back Hela somehow, some way, eventually,
Oh my gosh, yes.
she could be the villain like every Thor movie, and I'd be fine with that. She could be the one that like galvanizes like the new villain,
Maybe.
and then
I mean,
and then just like moves on with her life and watches Thor's life fall to pieces, kind of thing.
she Kate Blanchett was so over the top with it too. But
She was perfect.
She's great.
but yeah, it was amazing. And there's some scenes in there where like she's a perfect example. If you're gonna give somebody a weapon, actually have them use it. She is just straight up slaughtering dudes. You know? Like when that scene at Asgard where it's like the whole army and she's just on the top of the steps and she's just like talking to them and then she literally just obliterates all of them. Like,
Do you know who I am?
yeah.
Were
She's
you
like,
not
what am I
listening
even
to me?
Yeah, were you not listening? Yeah, like
I need to go watch that scene again.
that was like, yeah, she was a fantastic villain. I'm trying to think. Everyone always says, like when you look at like lists for like best villains, everyone always talks about Killmonger from Black Panther. But hot take here, I didn't really like Black Panther as a film.
What a brave thing to say.
I mean, it's nothing against
No,
against
I hear you.
It's nothing against Chadwick, or it's not like it's a bad movie. I think it's a perfectly well done film. It just, I don't know. I don't think anything about it is like overly. I don't know. It's got some cool like one of my favorite scenes is when he's kind of like in like the ethereal plane or whatever, and he's like talking to his father.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like that scene. I really like how it's shot, and the music in the film is bumping. But I don't know, most of it's just like another kind of like action Bond kind of spy movie almost.
Yeah, I mean it follows like a pretty
And that's-
straight line as far as the
Yeah.
plot goes.
And that's what they were going for, but it's just like, I remember when that came out, everybody thought, you know, like this, oh my god, this is the greatest Marvel film yet. And it was like, had like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, like. And I'm not one for being a contrarian, but I watched it and I was like, yeah, it's a good film, but it's not like, I don't think it elevates itself to like the top 5 of Marvel films.
No, I think it's just that, it sends a lot of really positive messages that people these days
Yeah.
needed to hear.
And maybe that's what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's also, it was revolutionary at the time and also like needed at the time to have a film that was primarily black. You know, that's a representation that you don't see very often in superhero films or just like big tentpole blockbuster productions. You know, so that's like that's really cool too. But
well, I'm really
and I just
hoping
if I
that
just look at it
Shang-Chi
as
does something similar.
Yeah.
Hoping.
Hopefully.
But I don't want to like I don't watch films for like how they affect my like world in real like how they affect real life. I just look at it as a film. And as a film it's just like, yeah, it's a good movie. That was it. Like you know. Like I set all the other things like aside, you know. Like as great as all that stuff is and it's really important, it doesn't like elevate the film in terms of just like it being a movie.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
Just like if Shang-Chi comes out, like it's awesome to have a primarily like Asian cast film. But if that movie sucks, like I'm still gonna say it sucks. Like even no matter how
worry.
like I have actually high expectations for that film because I am really excited for like a martial arts film in the Marvel universe. Like I want to see some just badass like fight scenes.
You already had Iron Fist, so
I was gonna make that joke.
Yeah. I couldn't finish Iron Fist because it was terrible.
I got the first season. I didn't watch the second season.
In fact,
Yeah, I've only seen the first.
In fact, all of those Netflix Marvel shows. Hold on. All of those Marvel shows, besides Daredevil, are not good.
You can stop that right
Wrong.
now. See, look. Boom.
Jessica Jones.
Jessica MF and
Yes.
Jones. Everybody.
Wrong.
Fantastic.
Just because you can't appreciate Kristen Ritter, you get out.
That's
Oh my
probably
gosh,
exactly what
she was
it is.
Excellent.
She is the best Jessica Jones we will ever get, and if they ever recast her,
Yes.
I will go and stand outside a building
I'll be so
somewhere.
disappointed.
I will 100% agree with everything you guys are saying, but I don't like Jessica Jones as a character the same way I don't like Deadpool as a character. Those kind of characters that are just... It's too much like sarcasm and like passive aggression, and it's just like that's like their shtick. That shit annoys me, and it gets old really quick. No matter how great their arc is, and Jessica Jones actually does have like a really cool like through line, but I hate her as a character so much.
She has so many layers, though. It's not just sarcasm.
Likable,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I can't root for that. You know, like I'm just like, God, I want you to lose because I fucking hate you. Like
every character in that show to every other character in that show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how they treat each other all the time.
Yeah.
Patsy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and I don't like her. I don't like her. Her best friend, mostly because I just don't.
It's okay to not like her because she's kind of a bitch, so it's okay.
And I don't like
gosh,
Luke
I ended up
Cage.
hating her at the end.
It just gets worse as each season goes on too.
Oh my gosh.
Like Jessica's kind of, she's trying to fix herself. She's trying to get better in what little ways that she can manage at a time.
Yeah.
And her friend is just going off the deep end.
Oh, that
the
last
entire
season.
time. Oh my god.
Yeah. That
When
broke
somebody
me.
has to like beat the crap out of her, just leave her on top of a building somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't watch the last season of Jessica Jones. Just because
I thought it was better
I,
than the second.
I had my fill by the time I got through season 2. I was like, God, I just can't stand this anymore. I just cannot watch. Just like I also still haven't watched Daredevil 3, but that's mostly because when they announced that everything was being canceled, I was like, well, I'm done with all this. So
they could have announced the canceling of all those things like in a better place. They could have at least let all the shows end and then announce it.
Yeah, not to get off too much on like a tangent, but that's part of the reason why I never like buy into Netflix shows, because I just don't trust them as a publisher house to not cancel them after the first season.
Oh, I mean, I have a small list going of shows where I'm like, why did you do this? But that can be saved for a different episode.
Yeah, maybe we'll have an episode just dedicated to Netflix.
Rada.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, technically, all those Marvel shows exist in the same universe, because I remember in Daredevil, like, they make mention to, like, Thor and Iron Man and stuff like that. And, you know, whatever. So I guess we can bring them up in this discussion, but they don't really...
Yeah.
They don't really matter to the Infinity Saga. Like, and
maybe someday.
Technically, they don't really
Maybe we'll
matter
talk about
at all
it in another
anymore.
episode.
So, like, I just feel like it was like a cool experiment, and it just didn't work because half the characters are not interesting. You know, like,
just more like Netflix wanted to use that money for somewhere else. They could have kept it going if they wanted to, like the directors and writers and stuff.
Well, the problem is Jessica Jones and Daredevil were the only ones that were A, getting watched, and B, getting good reviews. Even the Defenders did horrible.
Well,
and Iron Fist did horrible. Luke Cage did horrible.
Luke Cage.
And it deserved to be horrible because that show was awful.
Luke Cage?
Yeah.
See, I didn't watch the second season, but I really liked the first season.
No,
I thought the first season was fine. I tried watching the second season, and I stopped halfway through the first episode, and I haven't gone back since.
That is exactly where I left off, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, they could put Iron Fist and Luke in the same show. They could have, like, a buddy thing going on, because that's kind of where they belong anyway. And that would be okay. But
honestly, out of all those characters, I think the only one that deserves to make its big screen debut would be Daredevil. I think Charlie Cox, and to less, like, Kristen Ritter also has like a huge like fan following, but I think she doesn't have as much story thread that could be utilized moving forward as like Daredevil does.
Well, that's fair. Daredevil has a good history with a lot of like the current big screen heroes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like he
not
has
that the other ones don't either. But they kind of stay street level because they like it that way.
But I think if you were like out of the four, like, if I had to rank them, I think Daredevil has like the best chance of getting any sort of like big screen like revival. Like, throw him in a Spider-Man film or whatever, more so than like putting Jessica Jones in and whatever. You know, I don't think any of them deserve any of their own films. I don't think any of them are strong enough to stand on their own.
Just more TV shows would have been cool.
Yeah.
More seasons. I just think it's weird, that Marvel like decided to like make all these different shows all at once, like during this whole like these 3 phases, because not only did you have the Netflix shows, you also had stuff on Hulu, Freeform, and ABC. It was very weird.
What was on Hulu?
Hulu,
The Runaways.
they had The Runaways.
Oh, that was
and then they had
more of a
another
mutant show though. That's why it was on Hulu, right? Because it's owned by Fox.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had The Runaways,
What?
and they also had what's the other one that Noah Hawley did, but that was a mutant show?
Oh, Legion.
Yeah.
That was on FX.
Oh, Legion. Legion, I liked Legion a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was that other one though about the family.
You're talking about the Inhumans that was canceled?
No.
The Gifted.
Family. The Gifted.
The Gifted. That was
the...
on Fox.
Yeah.
I believe it was on Fox. Yeah, that was separate.
I remember
but the other ones that were...
Well, you also have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter.
Yes.
They were on ABC.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Freeform had Cloak and Dagger.
Oh, I forgot about Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, so did everyone, because no one knows what Freeform is.
Well, I do.
It's not like, hey, did you check that? Did you do the hit show on Freeform?
Yes, I watched all of it.
Is it good?
I thought it was really good. I think it's really underrated. It's definitely still like teen focused, and it deals with a lot of heavy like issues, specifically with human trafficking and stuff, and it takes place in New Orleans. It's a very cool like setting for the show. And they canceled that before. Like, it did get like 2 full seasons, and then they kind of wrapped it up. Honestly, I never watched all the Runaways, but supposedly in like the last season of the Runaways, they do like a crossover.
Yeah, they're in a couple episodes of the at the end of Runaways.
Yeah,
Okay.
Didn't Agent Carter get canceled as well?
Yes, after the 2nd season.
Yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually got to wrap up, though, right?
I think that's because
Yes,
the
they did. I was
actress
so happy.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just want to do a little thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That show really, like, stuck around. It really, like, it got the ending it deserved. And I personally really love that show.
Against all odds.
Yes.
Man,
I was surprised.
I only got like 4 seasons in, I think.
I think it lasted 7, too.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It went quite a ways. I need to go finish it someday. I liked it. I don't know why I stopped watching it. It wasn't because I didn't like it.
Yeah, I did not like it
the last
at
couple
all.
seasons are a blast. They're so crazy and fun.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of different people that it got better as it went on, but I can't dedicate myself to all the, like, mundane, tedious, like, early seasons to get to, like, the good stuff. Because, like, that first season was, like, a slog with bad acting and horrible effects. I'm just like, I can't watch this shit. I got better things to do. And granted, it's a broadcast show, so, like, but that's the reason why I don't watch broadcast television, because I just can't stand production values are so cheap, and they kind of just, like, you know, there's just not as much quality control, in my opinion, for that kind of stuff. So I'm actually surprised it actually got the full run. Because I remember Inhumans, did that show even actually come out? I think it got canceled.
It did. It came out, and then that was it.
I think it was like immediately canceled.
It lasted like a half season, I think.
Yeah. Because I remember the pilot came out, and they're like, "This is fucking awful."
I didn't.
Well, it was very weird because they released the first 2 episodes in theaters, right? As like a mini movie to like try to get people to like hyped for the show. Yeah, it does get a little bit better, but it's not that great.
And then the movie got canceled, and here we are.
Yeah, I remember the movie.
We get the Internals instead.
My gosh. Well, I think I'd rather take the Eternals for now.
Yeah.
Maybe someday they can fix the Inhuman stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough about either one of them to care who sticks around and who doesn't. So. Well,
I'm really curious to see what they're gonna have to do with Miss Marvel now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that a while back about how what the origin and how all that's playing out and what she's like, what she is and who she is. Like, that's all going to be interesting.
Yeah.
How do they kind of just like shove that character in? And it's like, where the hell have you been all this time? Or are you brand new? Like, it's, I don't know. Should be interesting, because that's going to be like the first Marvel show that we get that actually introduces a whole new character. Because isn't that the next one? It doesn't come out this fall.
Yeah.
Or it's either that or Hawkeye. I can't remember which one comes out.
You know what? It's Hawkeye first, I think. And then Miss Marvel, and then She-Hulk.
Yeah. Is She-Hulk this year, or is that next year? I don't even think they've started filming She-Hulk yet, so probably next year. They're still casting for that. Because they just got the lead. They got the lead earlier in the year, and they just got the villain like last month. So.
It's next year, yeah. 10 episodes. That's cool.
Well, lots to come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I know we keep talking about like the future, and we know that Fantastic Four, like, it was actually like officially announced, like no casting or anything. I don't even think they have a director or writers or like literally
Oh,
anything.
no, it's the
attached
guy
to
who's
that.
doing Spider-Man.
Oh wait, yeah, they do have the director, but they don't have like
That's it. I think.
John Watt or John Watts, Watt
Yeah.
or Watts, one of those.
That's a good question.
But the X-Men, like I'm really excited, but there's also like this part of me that still loves like OG X-Men casting.
Oh, of course.
And it's just
Yes.
and it's always gonna like throw me off when I don't see Patrick Stewart as Xavier, or I don't see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and I don't see Ian McKellen as Magneto. Like that's some of like the best casting like ever. So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
it's-
really hard for them to top
Yeah.
that.
It's going to take some time to get used to a new mutant cast for sure.
Yeah. Like I feel like that's gonna like I never get bogged down when they cast new Batmans or Jokers or whatever, because I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's like so it happens so often. But like Hugh Jackman was Wolverine for like what 7 films, and like 10 years of his like career was just playing that one character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and then
He
I'm gonna
is Wolverine.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm gonna see some new person playing Wolverine. I'm always gonna have that thing in the back of my mind. I'm just like, you're not fucking Wolverine. Like,
You fake.
they buried Wolverine in the hills.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because who knows, they might not even like right away choose like the classic like X-Men characters. We might see some slightly obscure ones. And
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be the worst idea if
Yeah.
they did more. But then it's also like, I feel like that's kind of like a slippery slope, because you're gonna have fan expectations waiting for the big characters, your Cyclopses and your Wolverines and your Xaviers and stuff like that. And then if we get, you know, like B or C Squad, you know, if like the first X-Men in the universe is Jubilee, you're gonna be like, all right, what the fuck's going on? Like,
Oh, don't you be hating
hey,
on
I was like,
Jubilee
I'm not
now.
going to complain about that.
no, but I'm just saying,
Jubilee
like,
is
that
the
doesn't,
best of mutants
it doesn't carry the same weight,
to you.
you know, in terms of because you got to understand, like, when you're doing film, you're more doing it for mainstream,
Oh, I
because
know.
you have to be able to make your money back. So like you have to be able to ride that fine line between like hardcore fan expectations and also just like casual moviegoers who want to see, like, they don't give a shit who plays Wolverine, they just want to see Wolverine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're like big X-Men reveal and you're throwing in a bunch of nobodies, like that's probably not the best for box office sales, you know?
I mean, there's plenty of people to choose from. I
Yeah,
think-
literally
I think
hundreds.
I think not starting with like the classic core is okay. Just to kind of like cleanse your palate, you know. It just kind of depends on where they go. Like, are they going to be kids when they start? You know, like, is Xavier
Yeah, I
gonna
know.
like start his school by gathering up the kids and stuff, or are they already going to be like experienced but just like hidden? There's so many directions that can go in. It's so
Yeah,
hard
'cause
to
it-
say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do like some sort of like, you know, one of the popular theories is like the multiverse like bleed over or crashing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean there
And
is
it's
that.
like, oh, they're already established, and it's just their universe is now part of this universe, and it's just kind
Yeah,
of like
but
everything's
I
thrown in
kinda-
at once.
I see that as lazy.
It's also it's definitely the
It's-
like easy route,
Yeah, that's
and it doesn't
yeah.
give them a whole lot of rope to establish. Like that's basically them saying, we understand that you guys understand who these people are, so we're not going to waste a lot of time like giving them backgrounds, you
like
know?
they did with Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which you've seen Spider-Man's origins enough time. I'm glad that I didn't have to see his uncle die again.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just like, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, he was a nerd in school and gets beat up, great power, whatever, the same fucking lines. His uncle dies. It's like he's be fighting wrestlers. Like, I don't need to see that a third time. And I almost kind of feel the same way with like the X-Men, because like we got them as kids with like those, with the later X-Men films that aren't great, and then to do it again, even if it's like better, it's just like, yeah, but I've seen this before.
Right.
So it's hard for them to, like, that's probably their biggest challenge, is how do we introduce them that feels earned but also not like pandering.
Yeah. Well, Feige said he has a plan.
He's probably bullshitting. He's probably like, he probably doesn't sleep at night. He's probably like
no.
probably like has like night
We'll just
sweats.
wait and see what the plan is.
Every waking moment since this buyout has been him trying to solve this riddle.
Right? Yeah, I like to think that they have a plan, but God, that's got to be like the hardest, like Rubik's Cube of characters to figure out. You
We'll
know?
see.
Yeah.
Like they haven't really steered us wrong, so you have to kind of go in with like a that blind assumption that they're going to pull it off. But I'm always the like skeptic on everything. So just because I'm a DC fan, so I'm always waiting for the rug to be pulled out from underneath me. You know what I mean? I'm kind of I'm used to that, so
Afraid to have any expectations.
exactly. So I'm just waiting for it to kind of be like, all right, this is when it all goes off the rails. That's what I've been waiting for. You know?
We've got a few years to wait probably for all that nonsense. So
Yeah, because does anyone know what the end of Phase 4 is?
Nope.
No, I have no idea.
Basically, everything that they've announced, it's all Phase 4.
That's what I thought. But they keep like, anytime they do like a new like timeline, like, you know, delays always throw everything off. And then like the last time they showed like all the title art, like Blade wasn't a part of it, so is Blade now a Phase 5 film, or they just, you know what I mean? Like I think it's still confusing, and I think they're still trying to figure it out.
Well, especially with everything getting delayed too, I think has kind of made everything.
Yeah, because technically
too.
by now we should have already have seen Black Widow, Eternals, and what was the other? Maybe Shang-Chi, because they were like, there was 3 films that were all supposed to come out last year, or wasn't Black Widow supposed to be like 2 years ago? Like,
Well,
It was a year
wasn't it
ago.
supposed to be Black Widow? Like, wasn't that originally supposed to take the place of when Captain Marvel came out, but then they switched places?
it's hard for me to remember, because I
I
think
thought that's
I have that in my head as what they should have done. So
yes,
maybe that's
100%.
So maybe that's what it is like seared in my brain, that was the plan. But I think I just willed that into existence.
I don't know. I could have sworn that was a thing, but I don't know.
Because I remember the
it
Black
should
Widow
have been a
movie
thing.
has been in talks for like years before it actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always thought that should have been the perfect like bridge between Infinity War and Endgame. Maybe now, actually having seen footage of it, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. But I always felt like Captain Marvel was kind of out of place as the bridge film.
It should have been after. Mm-hmm.
So, and honestly,
I
like,
guess we'll wait and see.
like, Captain Marvel may be my least favorite MCU film. Like, it's the only one I've only watched once, and I have no plans to watch it again.
No, I really like it. It's fun.
I think it's fine. It's not my least favorite, but
It's
nothing special.
Yeah, it's nothing special, and I think it's a little much in kind of the same regard as like how the latest Wonder Woman film is, where it's just like trying to be too much into like female empowerment to the point where it seems like not justified. And not
That's a slippery slope.
yeah, and it is 100%. But I feel like that film spends way too much time saying like, women can be just as good as men, and I'm just like, yeah, they can. They can. They're better than men most times. But this is like a 2-hour film, and most of it is just like flashbacks of her like, I can stand up when I get knocked down. Just like, oh my god, I get it. You're a badass. Let's move the fuck on. Like this, like it's almost too. It's too much, and she also has the same character traits that I hate that that Jessica Jones does, where she's just kind of like a smartass the whole time, and I just find that annoying, and I don't root for her as a character. I'm just like, oh my god, you're like the worst person.
Wait till you meet Spider-Woman.
Yeah, well, hopefully I don't, because
these
are characters
she's getting a Sony movie.
Yes.
Like an animated movie, like Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh.
Okay, well,
That'll be interesting.
She's supposed to be in the next Spider-Verse movie, and then she'll get her own movie after that. So, like Jessica Drew. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So I know these days I say Spider-Woman, and everybody thinks Spider-Gwen.
Oh, no, sorry.
Or Ghost Spider. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, hold on. Like, original Spider-Woman. Back it up.
Yeah, the original.
Well, if she's anything like Captain Marvel, you can count me out.
Well, they are best friends.
Yeah, so no, not interested. Just like I'm not interested in the Marvels or whatever, the three Marvels, the three Marvel women. Like, it doesn't interest me.
But you'll watch
Like,
it at least.
You don't like
once.
Monica?
I mean, we can get into WandaVision at a later
She didn't
date.
ask about
but,
WandaVision. She just asked about Monica.
Yeah, but no, I don't.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
There's
a trend. That's a dangerous trend you have going on, Ethan.
No,
Justify now.
No, because I actually love Black Widow. I think Black Widow is an actual perfect embodiment of like female power, because she's not
That's
a
hilarious.
piece of shit. And Captain Marvel is.
It's hilarious because I actually disagree with you. I think Black Widow, even though we've seen her in so many different movies, I think she has a lack of character development. I think she's just what most people think they should expect to see in a hero. And I think that, like, with Captain Marvel and stuff, it's showing that there are other female heroes out there that aren't what we stereotypically think. And I like seeing different sides, and that's
Yeah, we don't want to see the same character multiple times, so. But that's how Captain Marvel's always been. She's always been this like
piece
sassy. Okay, calm down.
Yeah, see, and I don't like sassy. I don't like it in any character. That's why I hate Deadpool too. It's just annoying. It gets tiresome. If everything that comes out of their mouth is a fucking one-liner and a sarcastic quip that proves that they can, do whatever, like, it's just, ugh. That's why I don't like. That's why I don't like Jessica Jones or Deadpool or any of those sassy assholes. They're just assholes.
Well, Deadpool is.
And I'm an asshole, so I can see other assholes.
Deadpool's
point them out of
job
a crowd.
is to sit there and be funny. That is
No, I
his
know.
job.
Like I understand like the character's point, but that's why I don't like that character. It's just like, it's not something I root for. It's not something I want to spend 2 hours of my time watching.
Yeah.
It's just like,
that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just not anything I don't like. That's part of the reason why I wasn't really a big fan of Iron Man either. Same reason. I can't root for a guy that's just an asshole all the time. He earns it later on. I think he has one of the better story arcs in the MCU.
Well, he's got the longest, so he'd better.
Yeah, and by the end of it, I'm just like, damn, dude, like, I'm going to miss Tony Stark. But I remember early on, I'm like, I fucking hate Tony Stark. I hate Iron Man. He's the worst. Like, I was always a huge Steve Rogers fan. He's like the perfect embodiment of the hero. He's selfless. He does whatever it takes to do the right thing, even if it makes him the enemy. Like, that is the character I get behind. That's the person I root for. I was on Team Captain Civil War, like stuff like that. I can't, I can't get behind characters that are just so like self-serving. And I'm not saying like Captain Marvel's not self-serving. Like, she's on an intergalactic scale, she cares about a lot. I just can't stand it when she talks. Like, because she's just snarky, and I just don't like the snark, It just gets old.
Well, I think seeing her after Endgame, I think will probably do a lot for her character.
Hopefully, because I think her representation, because, in Infinity War and Endgame, or she wasn't even in Infinity War. In Endgame, she kind of was just like a nothing. She has like a couple throwaway scenes. Mm-hmm. She saves Tony, and then she flies in at the end to destroy Thanos' ship. Have a couple cool fight scenes, but she didn't really do a whole lot or have much of a purpose, because Endgame was kind of like the culmination of the original Avengers, Mm-hmm. And like, in her film, an origin story, so it's very much it establishes her. But hopefully maybe it's just like that 90s punk. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's just a product of that film takes place in the 90s, so maybe she's just trying to fit in with that 90s shit. But I'm obviously gonna watch the Marvels, but I'm not like, it's not something that's on my list of like, I'm gonna gotta get there day one and watch this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But hopefully she does get better, because she is like a cool character and has potential to be she reminds me of a character I love in DC, which is Green Lantern. Like, they're intergalactic scale heroes, But she just needs to dial back the sass a little bit, and she'll win Ethan over.
Well, we'll see then, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we have anything left on our Infinity Saga retrospective? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
I mean, I feel like we can spend hours on this, but
I mean, yeah,
we can. I feel like we hit enough. Mm-hmm. High points, and we didn't really talk low points. But I didn't want this to be something where we're pulling a bunch of negative. It got negative. It got a little. It got This is supposed to be a love letter to the Infinity Saga. And since I'm an asshole, I always have to bring it down a little bit. So, sorry about that, listeners. Sorry. I love the MCU so much, all right? I really do. It's just certain things just irk me. It's a personal problem. It's something I'm working on. It's part of the reason why Wade annoys me. Because Wade's sassy, and that's part of the reason why it drives me crazy.
Okay, I thought we were ending on a positive note on this segment.
All right, here's the positive note. Wade, I love you, but you're a sassy bitch sometimes.
Hey, there
I
we
am.
go.
You're right.
All right, so moving on to more MCU goodness. Black Widow comes out in 8 days. So, what are your guys' expectations for this film? Because it's kind of a weird one to start off Phase 4 with a film that technically takes place during Phase 3.
Yep, I mean, I'm not thinking of it as a Phase 4 movie because of that. I'm just glad we get to see more about the Black Widow's life and her backstory and stuff. So I'll be there. I'm waiting.
I'm excited to see Taskmaster. Like, I want to see some really just like good grounded fight scenes.
Oh,
like just the same reason. That. The same reason why I really liked Captain America: Winter Soldier is because the Winter Soldier, like those action scenes with just like it was very visceral. It was very like personal. It was very like, it wasn't just flying around shooting lasers or being the Hulk and just throw. It wasn't like superhero stuff. It was more just like hand-to-hand combat, and like Taskmaster and Black Widow should lend itself to some pretty incredible fight scenes if they do, if they have like the choreography and the production crew behind it to pull off some of that stuff. Like that's what I'm excited for. Like I want to see some just like really cool, intense fight scenes.
Yeah,
that's like what Taskmaster's shtick is just being the ultimate fighter,
right?
Mimicking any fight style like instantly or whatever. Like he's about as deep as a puddle, but
it doesn't make him less dangerous though, for sure.
Exactly, but like I just want to see some just like knockout brawls,
It's gonna be 2 hours of that, I bet.
Hopefully. In terms of, I'm not really expecting, like we kind of briefly mentioned earlier, not really expecting a whole lot of like story threads or breadcrumbs that lead to grander things. I think this is more just like long overdue to give Black Widow her time to shine. This should have happened years ago.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember people were crying out for this during, like in phase 2. Like, hey, why doesn't Black Widow have a story or her own movie?
And here Hawkeye is. He gets a TV show where he's training a brat. So.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chelsea, what about you?
Yeah.
I know you hate Black Widow.
I hate the MCU version. Doesn't mean I hate the character.
I will agree that Black Widow's when she was brought into the MCU, she was like super over-sexualized.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, here's Scarlett Johansson, a bombshell. Let's put her in all these skimpy, tight outfits. Let's show as much cleavage as we can get away with Disney. Let's do all this.
That's Black Widow in the comic book too. That's not.
Well, I mean, a lot of these characters in comic books are like.
That's
no. I mean, a lot of these characters, and I'm not blaming Scarlett Johansson.
I'm not saying
like,
no.
I know she wouldn't make those decisions for herself, but I'm saying it's not like they're like, well, we've got Scarlett, so let's just hoe it up. No, that's very much Black Widow in the comics too.
I mean, a lot of these characters, like costumes in the comics, are like there's.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of them are super over-sexualized. So, but
yeah.
I feel like you have a perfect opportunity to not do that, and they fell right into that trap. They made her like basically like a distraction to Tony Stark, who is a poonhound basically.
Hey boy.
Well, I mean, but that's Natasha doing her job though too.
Yeah,
she's there to distract and learn and stuff like that. So.
Yeah,
it
but
was also just the first female character we were introduced in this MCU, and so it was just kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I just feel like her role in Iron Man 2 was not handled with any sort of grace or like there's a way to handle, like I feel like Bond films do this a lot better. Like the more recent ones, not the Sean Connery ones or the older ones. Where they have like the beautiful distraction, but they are way more than that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Black Widow wasn't until way later. Like, I mean, we got to see a little bit of it in like the Avengers film, but she didn't start getting any sort of like actual like story depth until like phase 3. So
yeah. So yeah, my expectations are low for this movie, but I think seeing some of the more recent trailers in the last couple months have made me a little more excited about this movie than when like it was first announced. So I will just try to keep my expectations low and just try to go into this movie with an open mind and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a good way to live. I'll go in with my popcorn and it's just expecting to have a good time, and if I get something else out of it, then great, let's go.
There you go.
Because at the very least, it'll be a good time. So.
Wade, I'm very much envious of your like whole just life outlook, because I just cannot. I don't live that way.
It's not too hard.
I feel like I only do it with film, though. I don't really have that kind of outlook on literally anything else, but film is something that's always something that I get overhyped for or I'm overly critical of, so on and so forth. So,
if I could think of some tips, I'll let you know.
Yeah, why don't you write me a book? But yeah, I don't have high expectations for Black Widow. I'm probably not going to see it in theaters because I'm definitely not ready to go back to theaters. So the Premier Access thing may be an avenue, or just a more wait and see, just because I have the impression that this doesn't have any kind of bigger purpose. So I'm not really like, oh, I have to get that end credit scene so I know what the next thing is. I don't have that kind of Jones for it. So
I didn't even
like,
think about an end credit scene for this movie.
Yeah. So I feel like I can wait, you know.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know this weekend, I guess.
I've seen reviews. It's already like, certified fresh.
Have the reviews come out already?
Yeah. There's like on Rotten Tomatoes, last I checked, there was like 140 reviews, and I think it's got like an 86 right now or something like that. So
interesting.
But I mean, what was the last Marvel film that wasn't certified fresh? Has there ever been one?
Probably
like even Thor: The Dark World and Incredible Hulk, which are like the bastards of the MCU, like they're both certified fresh. So
that's not saying much.
I feel like there's like a Disney mandate that that eliminates bad reviews.
Oh man.
I don't know. Do you guys got anything else on Black Widow? I agree with Chelsea. When it first announced, I was not excited for it, but then when you start seeing some footage, some of the action tidbits, I was like, oh wow, this looks like it could be a good time. Good little action movie, good little sprinkle of fun without any kind of big story weight or stuff like that. So yeah, July 9th, Black Widow.
Heck yeah.
Theaters and Disney Plus for the Premier Access.
Be there.
Yeah. All right, so now that we're done with that, let's move on to the latest episode of Loki.
Yeah, let's talk about you blowing up our phones about that earlier.
Yeah, that episode deserved to blow up phones because it was incredible. And maybe it's just because episode 3 kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And then episode 4 just gave me like a big scoop of just perfect vanilla ice cream to get rid of that. It was like episode 4 was just incredible. Start to finish. I loved it.
I don't even know where to start with the episode. There are so many like different segments in it that just hit so many places in that episode. It was pretty crazy. I didn't expect them to like go so far in one episode though.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
For an episode that they're 45 minutes to an hour long, but that episode had enough. I felt like it was really well paced, but it felt like it was like 2 hours long, as with all the information they were doling out, because there were so many just reveals and stuff that like people were expecting or waiting for, and et cetera, but just like the way it was handled. And I feel like pacing is a key contributor to that, because I felt like it was all delivered perfectly and it felt the right time to do it. And it brought back what I loved about this show, the like quieter moments of just people talking. I feel like this show shines brightest when it's just more character like engagement. And bringing back Owen Wilson, bringing back Mobius, like
Yes.
obviously, that's all I want.
Right.
It's so much better.
He dies, but whatever. Spoilers. He gets yeah, right. Yeah, this is also the first episode that had the post credits scene.
Dang.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Which but yeah, then like, the whole timekeepers thing, and then just the theory, the idea that they're all variants, and there's just so much information was doled out, but then also so many like bigger questions were conceived from it. It was and also the music in this episode was absolutely incredible.
So strong.
Yes.
Like the whole time, I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't think it is, but I was getting strong Game of Thrones vibes. Like the music was I felt like it was like the same composer, like the way it was. I don't know. It was, oh god, it was so freaking good. And not to bring it back to the MCU, like the Infinity Saga, but that's like one thing that most Marvel films don't really leave a lasting impression is with their scores. They're very just. It's just there. It's not bad, but it's also
just
not something.
Back and track to what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just music. It's there. It elevates the scene. It does everything it's supposed to do, but it's not something that you want to go like find that soundtrack and listen to while you're cleaning the house or whatever. Loki's the first time I've actually watched a Marvel property where I'm just like, I want this soundtrack just to listen to. Like, it's so good. And that's part of the reason why the episode just really like was just singing, because the music was just
such a full
perfect
package.
Yeah. Which also is just like, man, we have 2 left. If they're half as good as this one, then this will be the first show to actually have a good finish. So.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I kind of expect a good finish anyway, just because like this show doesn't have a tie-in to a movie. Like they don't have to like hit the brakes or anything. They can complete a story within this one season. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if that does get to happen. So
right, yeah, because like you said, is we don't really know what the implications of the ending for this is going to be, if it is going to have any, because we do know that there's another season of this coming, expectedly. So there's that, but we don't know what the there isn't this there isn't this notion that there are going to be any implications from this show.
Yeah.
So with that, going into it with that knowledge kind of helps temper expectations a little bit, because I think that's what sank WandaVision ultimately for me, is I had grander expectations based on how it should affect the greater universe. But we can, that's it's another conversation. Right.
Well, that they added in, like they changed the final scene of WandaVision.
I thought that was just like a rumor. Did anyone actually watch it?
Like, I have not gone to like check myself.
Yeah,
I just keep seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, I saw it fluttering around the internet that they added Doctor Strange back into the ending, but I've never seen it from an official source. It's always been from like, Candyman67 on Twitter. So I just never.
So Chelsea hasn't seen this yet. This scene, like at the post credit scene where Wanda's like in the cabin. Well, you know how like the scene begins with like the camera panning over like the lake and the woods and stuff, and then zooms into the cabin. Yeah. While the camera is still far enough back to where you can see like the entire landscape. Apparently you can see like a kind of like a camouflaged silhouette of Doctor Strange and his cape flapping, like descending down by the cabin. We'll have to we'll pull up the episode and we'll double check for sure, but and people have been showing it, but who's to say what's doctored and stuff like that?
Yeah. Because I know Doctor Strange was
look at that after we finish recording.
I know Doctor Strange was originally going to be in WandaVision, and then last minute Kevin Feige was like, no, pull it. Like, don't. So they shot a different, they filmed a different ending. So I feel like that's what fueled all this, this buzz that's blown up all over the place. It's like, oh no, they put him back in. But until, Marvel or Disney or somebody goes out and with an official statement on it, I don't buy it.
We don't need more speculation about WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah. The internet ruined that fucking show, so can we please just leave it alone? Jesus.
I thought it was fun while it lasted, but I didn't really expect half of those things to really happen. Just because they were so crazy and grand in scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hey, also, I pulled up the episode on my phone. You can absolutely see it.
You can see Strange?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a camouflage silhouette. Like if you look up in the trees, like you can see.
Send us a screenshot.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll
send a
do it. I will.
Okay.
send a
Do it right
screenshot in the chat right now.
Yeah, right now.
Sorry, audio listeners. This is.
now. You can go watch it yourself.
Yeah, go pull it up yourself.
Maybe we'll post in our social media.
Yeah, there you go. We'll just keep fueling the fires.
Hell yeah, we will.
Yes.
Well, while Wade's posting fan-doctored footage, Chelsea, do you have anything else about Loki?
No, I definitely enjoyed it. I think it definitely redeemed itself from that last episode. That was just kind of like, why was that necessary? And then it was like pulling you right back into everything. And so I'm looking forward to it.
This episode actually made me like Sylvie more too, where in the last episode
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
I
Certainly.
don't give a shit about you at all. Like, you just want to fight every 5 seconds. That's all you do.
Yeah.
And she actually used her sword, or she actually stabbed somebody in this episode too.
Yeah, when I was seeing that happen, I thought of you, Ethan. I was like, hey, look.
Yeah, exactly. Both of them stabbed somebody. So
Yes.
finally, that's all I've been wanting.
Use your weapons.
So yeah, exactly. If you're gonna have the prop department make that weapon, you better stab somebody with it. You know. So.
Yeah. So.
I mean, if I had to nitpick and find any sign of downside, it's kind of just like with Loki, he's not like this supreme fighter. So that fight scene at the end of the episode was kind of just like guys just kind of holding each other and rustling around. You know, it wasn't like a super well choreographed fight scene or anything. I mean, it got the point across, but it wasn't like, whoa, this is an awesome fight scene. It was kind of just, it's like kind of watching like what you expect a fight scene to be at like some frat house. You know, just a bunch of random swinging and flailing around. So that was like the only thing that was kind of but I'm not expecting huge, well choreographed, grandiose Shang-Chi style fight scenes from this show, but
Yeah.
it just stands out. It's just super noticeable when you watch something. You're just like, oh wow, this they definitely are not meant to be fighting. But yeah, I'm definitely eager to see what happens next. The post-credit scene, definitely sets up some of the stuff that we've seen in the trailers with Loki, and then Sylvie, digging for information about the timekeepers. So next week should be pretty awesome, hopefully.
Yes.
Penultimate episode. Here we go.
Penultimate episode.
What a word. What a word.
Penultimate. Every time, like, I actually got excited with that, like, phraseology when I was into Game of Thrones, because the penultimate episode was always the craziest.
Yeah, that was always the episode.
Yeah, it's like, all right, episode 9 of every season, some shit's going down. Yeah. So, like, you always wanted to watch the penultimate episode. But yeah, so I guess that's it for Loki. Definitely a roller coaster ride of a show so far, but Tom Hiddleston is perfectly cast as Loki as always.
Would you say that he is killing it?
Yes.
No spoilers.
I'm gonna miss Owen Wilson. That's the only thing. No more Owen Wilson.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess, but I just really want him to get his jet ski.
That's all he needs.
That's how the show's gonna end, is Loki and Owen Wilson on a jet ski.
Yes.
I don't think anybody would complain.
I'm calling it now. That's the ending. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this episode. Go ahead and like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Check us out every week. We always have an episode on Mondays. Also, we could use some reviews, 5 stars preferably, but do whatever. Do whatever you feel is right from your heart, And if you guys have any questions or comments, or you want to criticize the shit that comes out of my mouth, you can email us at demasteredpodcast@gmail.com. Also be sure to, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook at Pod Demastered. And yeah, thanks for listening to our verbal love letter to the MCU, and hopefully more great things to come in the future.
It was fun.
So. All right, so we will see you guys next week.